Good evening. In the last hour, the FBI has released images of a person of interest in the shooting of Charlie Kirk in Utah. Two pictures have been released. The FBI says a suspect, a person of college age, is still on the run and that they found a high-powered rifle. Mr. Kirk, a right-wing influencer, was shot and killed while speaking at a rally at Utah Valley University last night.
We will not stand for what happened yesterday. We are exhausting every lead. We have every officer invested in this, every investigator, every local agency. The outpouring of support from the law enforcement community has been astounding. We are investing everything we have into this, and we will catch this individual. Having walked through the crime scene, through the hallways of this school, through the classrooms, I can't imagine what the people on scene felt as well. A horrific event where some of them barricaded in classrooms, some of them ran in fear. Can't overstate the tragedy and the horrific event that yesterday was, and how we will work to bring to justice the actions of one individual or any other individuals that assisted in that. Our state has gone through a lot, and we will come out successful.
This morning I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle. That rifle was recovered in a wooded area where the shooter had fled. The FBI laboratory will be analyzing this weapon. Investigators have also collected footwear impression, a palm print, and forearm imprints for analysis. Now, I understand there are a lot of questions about motive. I assure you that all leads, tips are being fully investigated. As of this morning, we have received more than 130 tips. We thank the community for that. The FBI has brought every resource to bear, and we will continue to do so throughout the course of this investigation.
Well, our US correspondent James Matthews has the latest now from Utah.
Almost sounded like an open and shut investigation when the FBI held that 7:30 a.m. news conference this morning. They said they were confident, and there was a confidence in withholding these kind of images. You know, there was no immediate call to the public for help in identifying who he was. So, yeah, I do wonder.
My Walmart's flag is at half-mast today. That's crazy. I mean, look. Tragedy aside, if you're like a black person, if you have loved ones who are undocumented, if you're a brown person, if you are a trans person, or you know trans people, like, oh, because it's 9/11. Oh, Jesus. That's why, right? Okay, I was ready to pop off. But Trump is no. Hold on though. Hold on, because this is still a fucking larger a larger thing, because the president ordered flags to be at half-mast, not because of 9/11, but because of Charlie Kirk. I can't believe we forgot. No, I just Trump ordered it until Sunday, and it was openly not about 9/11 at all. He said it was for Charlie Kirk. He extended it for Charlie Kirk. And no, I didn't forget that it's 9/11 today. I already started the conversation, started today by addressing it. Anyway, my point is, if you're any of these marginalized groups that have been actively dehumanized by Charlie Kirk, or the right wing broadly, and you see a lot of institutional liberals currently talking about lowering the temperature aside, just genuinely talking about the background of Charlie Kirk and who he was and what he meant to so many Americans, all this stuff, you got to feel a little worried, right? You got to feel a little worried that there are just these people just don't give a shit about you at all. Because my expectation isn't for Ezra Klein to come out and be like, R.I.P. Bozo, smoking on that Charlie Kirk pack or some shit, right? That's not my expectation at all. That would be insane, right? And of course, if you're in a position of prominence, you shouldn't do that anyway. right? Because you know, you do have some influence, but the point I'm making is that, like, when you go above and beyond to almost like whitewash their perspective and their political output, when this is a political operative, you kind of come across as you're either signing off on their worldview, right? Or you just don't care, right? Like you either are saying, I like what he was doing, I like what his worldview looks like, or I don't care enough about the dehumanization that he partook in, right? This has got to be, I mean, this has got to be a weird moment for a lot of people. I'm in this. I'm too close to the situation for me to look at it as anything but there has definitely been a I just, when I saw the eulogies coming from CNN and Fox News and how close they were in the language and the verbiage used, like, it kind of frustrated me a little bit. Like, you're supposed to be clear. You're supposed to be honest. There's no reason to be dishonest. And I even tweeted about this earlier as well, and people were obviously screaming bloody murder in my replies in the aftermath of this. But, like, I tweeted two things. I said, shameful from the New York Times obit of Charlie Kirk, says Julia Steinberg. Mr. Kirk was so vocal in his willingness to spread unsupported claims and outright lies. He said that drug hydroxychloroquine was 100% effective in treating the virus, which is not. That Twitter temporarily barred him in early March 2020, but the move only added to his notoriety and seemed to support his claim that he was muzzled by a liberal elite. Now, what's interesting about this is, like, that is the least, like, that's the least offensive thing Charlie Kirk had said, right? Like, in terms of distasteful things, in terms of, like, you know, objectively violent statements and dehumanizing rhetoric, like, that's the least offensive thing, right? And I said, this is all but a fraction of Charlie Kirk's honest perspective. He was quite proud of his positions. He defended them vociferously. Not sure why you'd find them distasteful to mention. Can't you paint any person in a bad light? You absolutely can. You absolutely can. But my expectation in this moment is for people to be sober in their analysis and be honest in their analysis, right? Like, my expectation is not for the New York Times to be like, he deserved it or whatever. Obviously, I don't believe that either. But my expectation is for them to, at the very least, reflect a little bit about his positions, because this is the moment where you are. This is the moment where you are introducing Charlie Kirk to a much broader audience. Like, reflect on his real legacy. And Matt Walsh said some stuff as well. He said, all Charlie Kirk ever did was have conversations with people. He didn't insult anyone. He made arguments. He debated. He wasn't an extremist in any way. Everyone who knew Charlie personally loved him. That's the kind of guy he was. They still killed him. I'm furious and heartbroken in equal measure. I cannot put into words how I feel. Maybe that is for the best. To which I responded with, Charlie Kirk opposed the Civil Rights Act, called George Floyd a scumbag, said he'd be worried about black pilots, and that he forced his daughter to carry a pregnancy to term if she was raped. He shouldn't have been killed, but he was definitely an extremist. Like, the problem is, Matt Walsh doesn't think Charlie Kirk's an extremist. And the problem is, most Republicans don't think these positions are extreme positions. Okay? So in a moment like this, when tensions are very high, for mainstream institutions to also launder his reputation or his output and rewrite his legacy, after years and years of reflecting on it, after years and years of honest coverage about what he had said, down to the wire, down to the very last moment, I think is is disappointing. This is crazy. You think this? You think it's crazy that I think that someone saying that their daughter, if they were raped in a hypothetical, their daughter, if they were raped, that you would force them to carry a pregnancy to term is not an extreme position? Go ahead. Have that argument with anyone around the country. There are a lot less people who would agree with that position than there are people who would be repulsed by said position. He has a 10-year-old daughter. Yeah. I can't link Osita Nwanevu's blue sky take for you, but he said, and he is totally correct, and that's what my frustrations are a little bit as well. My sense is that most Americans had not heard of Charlie Kirk until yesterday. The first and perhaps only thing they're going to hear about him from the most trusted and important voices in American politics is that he was a model and constructive participant in good faith political discourse. That's crazy, because when you stake your reputation on a statement such as that one, you're signing off on all of this. You're signing off on all of this, and you're turning around and you're saying to the people that are listening to you that those are a part of the honest political discourse. You can say that this is a tragedy, that this is supposed to have no place. This is supposed to have no place in any country's political discourse. Like, it's true. It's true. That's why we live in a civilization, okay? You don't have to demonstrate empathy for someone who does not have empathy for you, but you can still look at the situation and reflect on it and realize that this is a dangerous, unstable environment, okay? An environment that absolutely requires legislative solutions. Look, the State Department indicated it would review the legal status of immigrants praising, rationalizing, or making light of Charlie Kirk's fatal shooting. What are we doing? But yes, Osita's take is correct on this. He covered Ezra Klein's New York Times article on this. He said, "This is frankly incredible to me. Would Klein have said Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA was practicing politics in exactly the right way this time last week? Exactly the right way? Really? Would that have been a broadly accepted characterization of left of center?" You can dislike much of what Kirk believed in the following statement. It's still true. Kirk was practicing politics in exactly the right way. He was showing up to campuses and talking with anyone who would still talk to him. He was one of the era's most effective practitioners of persuasion. When the left thought its hold on the hearts and minds of college students was nearly absolute, Kirk showed up again and again to break it. Slowly then, all at once, he did. College-age voters shifted sharply right in the 2024 election. This did not happen because of Charlie Kirk. This happened because of the anger and resentment that people had towards the administration that was in charge leading up to the election, and their inability to address their economic anxieties. Okay? That's it. That's it. Charlie Kirk was an accelerant, certainly, but yeah, you can take him out. You can take her out. But to make this false notion that he was like single-handedly responsible for this betrays the reality that is unfolding in front of us in real time. If Charlie Kirk was singularly responsible for the Gen Z turn towards Trump, and it wasn't more a systemic shift born out of, okay, guys, please be quiet. Hold on. 1 second. Thank you. You can't hear them, but I can. There's a lot of commotion in my house right now. So, where was I? What the fuck was I saying? If this wasn't a systemic shift with younger people responding, if this wasn't a systemic shift with younger people responding to the existing administration at the time, the Biden administration, and their inability to address some of these economic pressures that they were experiencing, and them falsely assuming that Trump would present an alternative vision that would be better potentially. If you think that it was something beyond that, Charlie Kirk, until yesterday, was still very much an operator in the field. He was still going to college campuses. So why did that Gen Z swing back happen already? Because in the first 9 months of Trump's administration, Gen Z swung wildly back towards an antagonistic position against Donald Trump. This is not only a bad political assessment, but it's also a dangerous one. Exactly. This isn't to say that Charlie Kirk wasn't impactful. Of course he was, for sure. But he was taking advantage of the systemic forces, the systemic shift that was happening broadly, because he was still very much right there. He was very much still in operation, and yet the Gen Z attitude swung directly back in the opposite direction and became antagonistic to Donald Trump. This is inconsistent. This is bad analysis, and it is inconsistent with reality. It is inconsistent with the New York Times Siena polls that just came out this past week, reflecting on Gen Z attitude that is antagonistic to Trump now. Anyway, and it's also incorrect in terms of like, this is broad persuasion, or these people are actually using the field of debate to arrive at a truth. Like, everybody knows that this is content. You're cutting content and you're doing propaganda. Okay? There is a reason why Charlie would pick the targets that he picked. And it's not Charlie who started this process. It's not Charlie Kirk who was responsible for, the college campus debate field. Ben Shapiro did it all the time as he elevated his status as well, taking a bunch of hysterical college campus freshmen who have never been in front of a microphone, in front of a large audience, and like ritualistically humiliating them so you can make SJW-owned compilations, is not actually arriving at the truth, arriving at any sort of serious truth through testing your ideas in the field of battle. It's just propaganda. Shapiro did it. Steven Crowder did it also very famously. The whole change my mind, that was Steven Crowder, right? So the assessment here of the assessment here of debate and why Charlie Kirk was doing these debates is also false, is also built around a falsehood. When the left thought it's holding hard, slowly, then all at once he did. College-age voters shifted rapidly. That was not all Kirk's doing, but he was central in laying the groundwork for it. That is fair. He says that's not all Kirk's doing. I did not know Kirk, and I am not the right person to eulogize him, but I envied what he built. A taste for disagreement is a virtue in a democracy. Liberalism could use more of his moxie and fearlessness. In the inaugural episode of his podcast, Governor Gavin Newsom of California hosted Kirk, admitting that his son was a huge fan. What a testament to Kirk's project. Osita continues. He says, Charlie Kirk was not engaged in respectful political debate. Charlie Kirk condemns Zohran Mamdani for how he disgustingly eats rice. We in the West value cleanliness. We have utensils. Charlie Kirk says, it doesn't feel right for London and New York City to have Muslim mayors. This is not respectful debate. It's just not. It's just pure racism being intellectualized and then being washed over by an intellectual giant such as Ezra Klein amongst the liberal intelligentsia, of course. Ezra Klein is a revered figure, is a respected figure by liberals. He has a prominent spot at the New York Times, and he's using that prominent spot to basically wash over a whole bunch of completely racialized screeds as though this was a reasonable disagreement that people had. Make no mistake, however, this is like the solution to this is not fucking gun violence. Obviously, that is insane. Okay? The difference, of course, here is that, yes, as someone also brought this up, if he said this about Jews, Ezra would not have this opinion of him. You know? That's also true. As someone who can tonally be incendiary, I think there's a role for incendiary in politics. And I am certainly not a stranger to an incendiary tone myself, as you guys know. You know, I have some of my highlights and lowlights. It's filled to the brim with incendiary statements. Okay? And yes, Charlie Kirk has said anti-Semitic shit as well. It doesn't matter. He's super pro-Israel. And for a lot of these guys, it doesn't matter if you say stuff like that about Jews, okay? Calm down. As long as you're pro-Israel. And Charlie Kirk certainly was unimaginably pro-Israel. And I have an assessment about all this. I have an assessment about all the other conspiracy theories that are running around as well. Okay? Just stop posting your RP Bozo shit. There's already a Canary Mission style Charlie Kirk Death Celebrators website up and has doxed over 10,000 people so far. No matter how you feel, have some self-preservation, please. It's not worth it to say the same dumb shit others have already said. Exactly. Like, you need to have a little bit of messaging discipline and operate from a position of self-preservation. You think you have anonymity online? You do not. You do not. These guys are literally out for blood. They're looking for anything and everything they can get out of the situation. While everybody understands that, like, I did not engage in any sort of celebration whatsoever, and even told people not to do so for self-preservation purposes, especially. There are still people who are upset with my analysis on, like, Alex Jones. Like, they're looking for anything that they can hold on to say, like, you are not sufficiently sad about this. You understand? They're using anything and everything they can under the sun to try and punish their ideological enemies. Anyway, as Osita says, as someone who can be tonally incendiary, I think there's a role for incendiary in politics. My problem with Kirk wasn't his tone, but the content of what he said, which I believe was immoral. All that aside, I wonder how readily mainstream voices would canonize a dead leftist speaking in this register as having engaged in respectful debate. Of course not. Of course not. If the equivalent of Charlie Kirk on the opposing side is someone like myself, if I were to be assassinated under gruesome circumstances similar to Charlie Kirk, they would be celebrating it. They would literally be advocating to release the shooter if he were ever apprehended to begin with. They would call him a hero. They would say, we need more of that. We need more. We need more of this kind of death. Let's be real. Of course, if the right-wing pundits goading listeners towards violence, as Kirk himself did, get their way, we might find out soon enough. Exactly. The New York Times comment section is the best moderate publication in America. He was a traveling salesman, not interested in debate or listening to ideas, but performative showmanship. The spewing of vitriolic hate towards outgroups disguised in the rhetoric of conversations is nothing to be commended. This is true. This is going to get so out of context. What are you talking about? So, you make it sound if there's a massive witch hunt going on in America. Chatter. Are you around? Are you alive? Is your brain functioning? Have you not seen this? Did you not listen to Donald Trump's own words where he said we're waging a war against the left and liberals in general, and we're going to punish them? Anyone and everyone that is responsible for this, that has ever, like, called a Republican correctly a Nazi or whatever, is liable. And this is, of course, on top of the existing witch hunt against migrants or people suspected of being migrants. How severe do you think it is what I meant? I don't know, man. I guess the severity of it is dependent on your position of privilege, your position of comfort. Like, for example, when Mahmoud Khalil was apprehended, when numerous pro-Palestinian writers and student activists were apprehended black bag and threatened with deportation, did you think that was a severe escalation and a severe violation of the First Amendment? Or do you think it was just simply, people are just like grossly exaggerating this? Perhaps because you don't think that this would ever impact you in a meaningful fashion. So, yeah. Interesting. The right way in politics is to spread hateful comments against Americans you don't like, or to condone gun deaths to have the freedom to bear arms. His death was sad, but don't sugarcoat his actions. That's my assessment as well. Like to be gunned down in that way at the age of 31 is horrifying. It's a tragedy. It is. And it's unacceptable in American politics, and it's unacceptable across the board in all politics. There is a reason why we live in a society where there is a social contract that we abide by. This is ripping apart the social fabric, okay? But that social fabric has been unwound for the past multiple years of unimaginable gun violence that Americans have experienced. That social fabric has been ripped apart by all the death and destruction that we deal overseas. And that death and destruction has violent consequences here on the home front as well. The fascist boomerang. Okay? And in the absence of any sort of serious considerations of how to solve some of these issues, that decentralized form of violence is only going to continue. And I think liberals, instead of taking a sober approach here and trying to engage with the structural inequities to address these issues, are simply just responding, and they're responding in the same way that Republicans are responding, by hailing Charlie Kirk as a champion, a hero, laundering his reputation, making it seem as though the way that they have covered this, the way that Charlie Kirk operated was actually good.
I need you all to realize
what is this?
that debate will never save us. And the reason you have all of these left debate bros crying over Charlie Kirk dying is because they were actually buddy-buddy and everything was actually just a game to them. This demonic rhetoric that actually causes harm to people of color, to minorities, to actual people, real, genuine violence and harm that is enacted through rhetoric that these people would...
I mean, I've been saying this. I've been saying that, like, realize how everyone hates Hasan Piker? Yeah, because he's not friends with any of them and they hate him for it. I'm reminded when Hasan Piker was at the DNC, Charlie tried to dab him up like they were buddies, and Hasan was so confused and ignored him. It absolutely is a game to the debate bros. They do not seriously care about the issues they speak about and rhetoric, or their rhetoric has on the masses. Like, none of this is to say that it's a good thing that this happened, okay? I'm not doing that, obviously. But I do think I do think that it's a disservice to the public if all of these trusted liberal institutions are engaging in the same kinds of obituaries that you hear from Sean Hannity. Kind of weird how everyone turned on you. It's not weird, man. It's not. It's just, it's an expectation. A lot of people, if you believe that there is an ideological goal here, if there is a higher purpose here, then you don't give a shit about petty disagreements because it comes across as narcissistic. If you have a broader ideological goal in mind, even when others are attacking you nonstop and in increasingly more belligerent ways, what do I always say? What do I always do? I have a policy, a principle of not actively attacking those to my left flank because, one, I understand that we don't have any power in this country, okay? And two, that these guys are ultimately on the same cause. They're directionally fighting for the same issues. Bro, you literally say you're against the death penalty and even advocate for everyone, including Nazis, to get health care? Of course. Of course. That's true. I've never seen this much Hasan hate over ever on Twitter until now. I mean, it's fine. It's all right. This is not new. It's just increased in its intensity. That's all this is. That's all it is.
Create and spew all over the world. And then the left guys would come in and believe that they're saving the world, doing justice. But in reality, it was all just a fucking game to them. That's why they're crying because he's gone. Because it was all a fucking game. Debate was never about...
This nerd is trying to sound scary. You had a Houthi on your live stream. Instead of calling American heroes extremists, you should return to your native Turkey before we prosecute you for material support of a designated foreign terrorist organization. Come on, man. Come on, dude. Please, please. You are such a pussy. Like, do you feel like a big man? You're like, hey, man, I'm going to get daddy to prosecute you. I'm going to get daddy to prosecute you. Oh, I don't like it. Assuming such an interview would be material support doubtful, Houthis were not even a foreign terrorist organization at the time of the interview. I understand tensions are high, but maybe you can stop calling for baseless criminal prosecutions of your political enemies. Okay, we got a liberal lawyer defending me. This is a former Destiny Orbiter. Liberal lawyer. It's just like this is I expect this from the right, which Will Chamberlain is from the right. But what I don't like is when I see people who present themselves as like liberal figures. Okay? I do not expect this from people who present themselves as liberals online, you know, like Ethan Klein or the fucking losers brigade, right? Like the people who present themselves as like centrists, apolitical people. They do this exact same thing. They use the exact same language. They demand the exact same criminal prosecution. And it's like, it's ridiculous. Like, what are you Steven Crowder? Like, what the fuck are you? Will Chamberlain, not Wilt. Did I say Wilt? I've seen multiple TikToks of people celebrating his death and saying they unfollowed left-wing people who were saying this shouldn't have happened. I truly don't get how to reckon with that. It's fine, dude. Tensions are high. What do? You know? I think people need to let go of petty disagreements that they have. Anyway, I just think to myself, when like, how do so many Americans feel when they see when they are aware? Like there's a reason why like TikTok's response to Charlie Kirk from liberals and leftists alike has been very different than I think like all of the other mainstream news outlets, because that's where Charlie Kirk actually found a massive audience. But because of that, that's where Charlie Kirk was also hated severely, right? Because they know his takes. They've seen his takes, right? Those same positions that garnered a lot of attention from young conservatives all around the country were exactly the reasons why that dehumanizing language, for example, that he used all the time is the reason why a lot of people actually were very frustrated with him and maybe even despised him, right? But a lot of these people are completely oblivious to Charlie Kirk's worldview, and they are being presented a totally false image. Okay? Disagreeing with you does not mean being right wing or far right. I'm Norwegian, voting left, which basically means more left than you even understand. Your takes are largely dogshit, polarizing, and borderline crazy, Hasan. Thank you, goodbye. Explain what you mean. Explain what you mean. Because there's never people always say stuff like this, but they never actually follow through. They don't actually say like, this is what I disagree with you. This I think is very polarizing. And then when they do, if in the random circumstance where they do actually fucking reveal their position, it's not even my position. It's just one that another person has negatively framed that they've been duped into believing. Like the most improper, the most negative framing that you could ever hear. Something like what Will Chamberlain was advancing here. Okay? It's additionally funny for a Norwegian leftist who fancies himself to be a left voter in Norway to say this about someone like myself, because on the legislative front, a lot of the things that I advocate for is basically trying to get the United States of America to have modest social democratic reforms that reflect the Norwegian social democracy that is also withering away in front of the eyes of the Norwegian left. So, you know, like nationalizing the entirety of our extraction industry, as is the case with Norway, for example. The entirety of the energy and the forestry in Norway is nationalized. This is great. I would like to do that here. Will Chamberlain, the guy calling for de-workwear and Mehdi Hasan to be deported because he disagrees with them, is a trust fund kid who assumed control over a significant amount of money at 25, failed to fulfill his dream as a financier, and now works for the most shameful culture war factory slop job. And was chilling with Andrew Tate. And a bunch of other groypers, as a matter of fact. Interesting. That was the guy who was like, you interviewed a Houthi, wait until we destroy you. My dad just openly posted saying they're done with passive action and that myself and others need to be dealt with. So fucking heartbreaking. Okay, this is a great example, right? You're hearing this from a lot of conservatives. They're very, very angry right now. They're very agitated. They're always agitated. Agitation is a part of their politics in general. That's what it is to be a reactionary, right? But like, what's he gonna do? That's your dad. Is he gonna do anything? Probably not. Expand on that assessment and you will arrive at a more comfortable, just the more likely outcome of all of this. Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of messages like this one. You killed the one man that was willing to come to you peacefully and debate. The talking is over. Like everybody out here, everybody's basically operating like they're fucking anime villains. You know, everybody is like Sephiroth posting on the timeline, like, oh, it's time. Your time is going to come. This is like, it reminds me of like the 2016 era, you know, Antifa, what's his name? Grimmy, whatever, the Philadelphia logo, like, you know, young college freshmen who first were learning about like Marxist Leninism, gritty posting. It reminds me of that. Of course, the difference is like young college freshmen who have never shot a gun are not as serious about doing this kind of decentralized violence as you know, divorced dads with an arsenal of weapons and a willingness to go out and you know, do this kind of violence. So it's a little bit more serious when you know, MAGA family annihilators actually make these sorts of threats. it still hopefully will not amount to anything super consequential. I hope. That is my hope. Anyway, we are living in Eddington for sure. The issue on the people on the left are the issue is people on the left who are saying him being killed is a good thing. Brother, wake up. Do you not see what's going on here? How do you not understand that this is the exact same thing, but on the other side? And this side actually has the ears of the administration who is saying similar things, at least on the point of political persecution against political dissidents. Okay? A bunch of random TikTokers and a bunch of random people being like, I hated this guy, I'm celebrating his death, is not the same as like an administration that is going to now use as an opportunity to literally engage in political persecution and maybe even more. Okay? As a matter of fact, the people cheering on the left are doing so because of their lack of power. It's a recognition of not having any power to change anything at all, any of the structural inequities. Do you understand? That's who cheers for this kind of thing. People who have completely lost hope that any sort of real, tangible, material improvements will happen for them. This is what I mean when I say the social contract has exploded in front of our eyes. Do you get it? The social contract is gone. People do not feel like they can ever own a home. The American dream is not happening for anybody. And that causes a lot of enmity, that causes a lot of anger, that causes a lot of resentment. And in that resentment, there are those on the right who redirect their anger and animosity, led by, shepherded by even the likes of Charlie Kirk and, you know, the Trump administration in general, towards marginalized groups. And the people on the left look to these structural inefficiencies, recognize their inability to change them, and then basically sit around and celebrate when stuff like this happens. Okay? But to say that the deck is not stacked against the left, and liberals in general as well, in a situation like this is so fucking stupid. You are denying abject reality that is right in front of your eyes. Okay? You're getting mad at a bunch of people that you have presented in your mind as like the real enemy here on the left for doing something that Republicans have never stopped doing. Okay? Never, ever, ever. They're doing it right now. They're doing it right now. Do you understand? Like, you're over here saying, well, you know, it's because the real issue is a bunch of leftists are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Okay, well, there's a bunch of right-wingers here saying, like, we have to start killing these leftists. That's why I said all these, like, prominent right-wing figures online, key search George Floyd, key search Hasan Piker on their fucking accounts. Key search, keyword search, any high profile Democrat that has been assassinated, for example, to get a better understanding of what their opinions are. Keyword search trans. If you want to understand like what their positions are when it comes to political violence and how much appetite they have for political violence, you will realize that like the only reason why they're saying this right now is because they're saying this right. Oh, yeah, Paul Pelosi, Pelosi's husband. There are a lot of this use flying around here. Look, they lectured us about the dangers of the right. Then they cheered when Charlie Kirk died. It's a sickness. This you. Congrats, George Floyd, 5 years sober. A victim of police violence. Like, ridiculous. This is abject cruelty. It is utterly ridiculous. And it's so ridiculous because like They say this is comedy. When you turn around and get mad about this kind of statement, they say, what's wrong? I'm just doing comedy. Okay? But if you do the same, they go, you need to be murdered. You need to be prosecuted at the very least or murdered. Comedy is legal now, right? Remember. Here's another example. Yeah. Have some class and respect for the dead. Imagine if it was your father that was shot while the whole media is making fun of it. Bye-bye, Gaza, he says. Again, so many examples. Yeah. Congratulations to George Floyd on being 5 years sober today. That's comedy. Charlie Kirk's death will not be in vain. I'll be spending my night making everyone I find online who celebrates his death famous. So prepare to have your whole future professional aspirations ruined if you're sick enough to celebrate his death. I'm going to make you wish you never opened your mouth. These people need to be condemned in society, and there must never be a place for these people to gather without facing the shame of their behavior. That's it. Charlie Kirk said black people were better off in slavery and subjugation before the 1940s. It was bad and it was evil, but they committed less crimes.
Thousands.
Yeah, he did.
This shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil, but what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they were afraid. I mean, 4,000 black men, women, and children were killed in violent lynch mobs.
If that's your explanation, but I guess
racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been
that
in the
affected
last 80 years.
The generational psyche of an entire group of people?
No, I'm sure it did. I'm not discounting that. I'm just this shows they were actually better in the
Somewhat decent statements from a lib. There are violent extremists on the left, but they are not in charge of the party. You can find them on social media, not in the halls of power. The violent extremists on the right are in Congress, on courts, sitting in the Oval Office. Every single major Democratic politician condemned the murder of Charlie Kirk. Meanwhile, before even knowing who the shooter was, the Republican president gave a speech calling for violence against the Democrats. There are mass thugs running through the streets, dragging people out at cars at gunpoint. There was an attempted violent coup at the Capitol building brought on by the president himself and Charlie Kirk, too, by the way. Make no mistake. That's another part of the thing. That's another part of this puzzle that's like so interesting. Liberals who only care about January 6th, I guess, forgot Charlie Kirk literally paid for buses. Charlie Kirk bussed people to the Capitol. Turning Point USA bussed people to the Capitol to participate in the insurrection. So it's even shit that they care about that they seemingly don't care about, right? Like, even if it's someone like Ezra Klein maybe doesn't give a shit about all of the dehumanizing language that has come from many conservative figureheads, including Charlie Kirk, right? Including but not limited to Charlie Kirk. Maybe you don't care about it. Maybe you think like, well, that's just like political disagreements is fine, right? But you care about January 6th. That's like a thing that you care about. That's what you talk about all the time. Dehumanizing language says you, brother, I have said over and over again that I am a firm and committed advocate for universal health care and universality in general in all of my legislative items, including but not limited to Nazis as well. If you cannot comprehend that, I don't know what else to tell you, okay? Always and forever. It's just that you don't know that. You don't understand that. You don't care to understand that. You've been primed into thinking that I'm this like evil person, and it's fine. But if you were to actually expand, if you were to actually watch a clip that you saw out of context and, watch the next 20, 30, 40 seconds of it, you would probably get a better understanding of what I truly believe. Some years of lead video to prepare the Americans for what's coming could be appropriate. Yes. Anyway, hell, he threatened to invade an American city 4 days ago. I'm genuinely sad the man died, not because I agreed with a word he said, but because he was a misguided person who himself was caught up in the culture of violence. He deserved to be shouted down for his backwards ideas, not murdered. The most sickening part of this whole ordeal is the excitement you see in Republicans, how quickly they move past any respect for the dead, any reflection on the environment they help foster, straight into who should be murdered next. This is actually a pretty solid assessment. Did you see Pedo Troll was kind of blaming it on you? Yes, dude. He is in a very weird environment himself. I think he's like trying to like design like a reasonable liberal position for himself, where he just like actively says like the real evil in this country is not the Trump administration or reactionary conservatism, but instead is HasanAbi Piker and others like him. It's the Twitter leftists that he thinks are the primary villains here. Pedo Troll doesn't really narrow it down. Pedo Troll is the former username of my former podcast co-host Ethan Klein. Okay, he was outed as having a early Reddit account where he would just like engage in what he said was pedophilic trolls. He called himself that. They don't even know who the shooter is, yet they're ignoring the obvious marks of a professional killer who clearly had high-trained military background and the fact that these guys tend to be right-wing nut jobs with an obscure axe to grind. But they've already given him, and we all know it's a him, not a her, an identity, the faceless embodiment of everything they hate, and a fear with a clearly coordinated messaging campaign to call him a leftist. So it's clear that what they want is not peace. They want a justification for more violence. They want a bloody shirt they can point to and say, see, this is why there are thugs in the streets in mass pulling people from cars at gunpoint. This is why we must end the American experiment in democracy. And the most pathetic part of it all is that none of it is necessary. Violent crime is down everywhere. This is all invented. And it was done so to protect the pursuit of power of one man, a dim-witted child rapist who became a violent extremist simply because selling his dark vision of America was the only way his corrupt, soulless ass could stay out of jail. Great take from Michael Gillette, by the way. It's true. Everything he said here is true. While I have ideological disagreements with liberals, like, this is correct. This is one of those instances where it's just fucking correct. It's objectively correct. That's it. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I think it is the most important thing to be honest in this moment, to be honest about your assessment, to be clear about your morality, but to be honest about your assessment of where we are, okay? Where we are right now in this day and age in the political discourse environment that we exist in, okay? This isn't just Trump, though. It's the entire right-wing movement. Yes, Trump is a beacon of modern reactionary attitudes. He is just a singular force that summarizes everything. Hannity, the left has given us 10 nonstop years of rage and hatred and a vile language. It is undeniable. It is poisoning the minds of many people in our country. I said all of modern conservatism is about making up a false reality to get mad at and then getting endlessly mad about said false reality. That's it. Wow, the left is really violent in their rhetoric. Why? Because they say conservatives who dehumanize entire swaths of the population are being brutal and ruthless and violent in their words. That's the real violence. Everything always goes back to liberalism. Everyone is a liberal. Sean Hannity is behaving as a liberal here when he says words are violence, except when it's directed against me. As opposed to the violent rhetoric that I traffic in on a nightly basis, okay? And the summarization of this is basically, it's not the racist thing that I said that is actually fucked up. You calling me racist for the racist things that I said, that's the real problem. That's it. This is the guy who said you should be blackbagged is deleting his post apparently and blocking people who called him out. I mean, that's not surprising. This is the same principle that I have maintained for years. At the peak of campus culture, cancel culture, and free speech panic, when everyone kept pointing the finger at the left and liberals in general for engaging in cancel culture and all these narratives, and certainly a lot of people were doing that, you know who was still the most successful group, the most successful ideological movement that was able to cancel people, were able to actually successfully burn books? It was the right. It was always the right. But they were able to market themselves as brave warriors engaging in the act of cancel culture for patriotism, a higher order, a higher priority that actually makes sense. There has never been a moment in U.S. history, all the way from the Red Scare, McCarthyist trials, all the way down to modern, contemporary American politics, where it wasn't the right that was actively canceling people, actively suppressing speech, actively silencing their opposition. Okay? That has always been the case. And we're seeing that right now. Wow, you are really delusional. There is evidence for this. You have nothing. Go look at organizations like FIRE, who dedicate, and they're right-wing organizations for the most part, who dedicate their entire fucking purpose to tracking where the cancellations are taking place and where the book bannings are taking place. Okay? I'll give you the greatest example. Conservatives say liberals want to do cancel culture. They hate free speech. But then it's the conservatives that turn around and successfully implement initiatives by claiming things are CRT, by claiming things are woke, by claiming things are DEI, and then successfully stopping the dissemination of truth in our schools. It is the conservatives that have, on the one hand, played the victim consistently, and on the other hand, actively stopped certain educational initiatives from taking place. Do you understand? Anti-woke is literally just a repackaged attempt to do censorship. That's all that is. And people don't understand that. The average person does not understand that. For conservatives, it's usually just projection. Do you not understand that? How is that confusing to you? And the more liberal institutions capitulate to this right-wing framing and right-wing grievances, oftentimes whipped up in a moral panic, the worse things are going to get. Okay? Yeah. Oh, look, yesterday the right had a coordinated campaign of lies to stir up violence, and here it is. Of course, immediately bomb threats are being issued. HBCUs are shutting off campuses. They're on lockdown. 7 of them, I believe, at this point. The DNC headquarters had a bomb threat issued to them.
It says this afternoon there was a bomb threat to the DNC HQ that was determined to not be credible by the U.S. Capitol Police. Out of an abundance of caution, Capitol Police is conducting an interior sweep of the building. As DNC Chairman Ken Martin has said, political violence in every form has no place in our country. We are grateful to the U.S. Capitol Police and DNC building security for responding quickly. It says this afternoon there was a bomb threat.
Anyway, why are we abdicating the personal responsibility of Kirk and acting like he's some right-wing avatar forced to be so because of his conditions? Wait, what? Where is that coming from? For me, a list of Trump supporters who killed or tried to kill Democrats and opponents of Trump in recent years, since the right are now claiming all political violence is from the left. Here, this is on Zateo. Here are the actual facts for those with conveniently short memories. The man who targeted and killed Democratic state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark in their home in Minnesota in June was a Trump supporter. Far-right evangelical televangelist pastor, as a matter of fact, and a security contractor. The man charged with the attempted assassination of Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro in April was a Trump supporter. He was also literally a paranoid schizophrenic as well. The man convicted of orchestrating a series of shootings at the homes of 4 Democratic elected officials in New Mexico in 2022 was a Trump supporter. The man who tried to kidnap the Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and assaulted her husband Paul in 2022 was a Trump supporter. Republicans celebrated that, including Donald Trump Jr. Okay? If you recall. So when they turn around and say, like, we got to really tone down the political violence, or even moving away from that, turn down the political violence to directly doing more political violence, saying, like, we have to punish the left. They did this, without any evidence to suggest that is what's going on. The very same people that are engaging in that were also very much making jokes about this shit. Okay? The men who wanted to hang Mike Pence on January 6th were Trump supporters. The man who killed the son of Obama-appointed district judge Esther Salas in 2020 was a Trump supporter. The men who were convicted of trying to kidnap Michigan's Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020 were Trump supporters. The man who sent pipe bombs to the homes of Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and other top Democrats in 2018 was a Trump supporter. The man who killed left-wing activist Heather Heyer after driving his car into a crowd of counter-protesters in Charlottesville in 2017 was a Trump supporter. There are a million different versions of this in terms of all the right-wing, far-right mass shootings that have taken place, by the way. Okay? It is ridiculous. Black and white much? What do you mean? It is ridiculous. The notion that it's actually leftists that are so violent and constantly doing violence is just not true. It's misinformation, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Because it actually corresponds to the feelings of a lot of people, right? It corresponds to people's personal feelings, and therefore it's fine. And this list is so short as opposed to the much larger list if you were to factor in a lot of the far-right white supremacist acts of violence that have taken place. Even the guy who fucking shot Trump, Thomas Crooks, was a registered Republican. Ryan Ruth was definitely libbed up. He was a NATO lib by the point of his attempted assassination. Having said that, he had literally voted for Trump in the prior years. What are we doing? All of you are weird, not gonna lie. Okay. No more vague gesturing. Just point to what you take issue with, please. We can't have a normal conversation if you just go, oh, I don't like what you're saying. Okay, yeah. I don't like a lot of things that I hear on a daily basis. But at the very least, I try to address the issues that I have with people rather than just like vaguely gesturing in the direction of discontent for one reason or another, you know? People love presenting Charlie Kirk as this like beacon of a debate, a beacon of discourse, even though he used debates and discourse in an effort to basically cut, right-wing propaganda. But if you want to appeal to that notion, then at least the very least you can do is explain what your position is. Okay? Looks like this could be the type of shirt a person of interest in Charlie Kirk shooting had on. Land of the free, home of the brave. Yeah, this is what it looked like. But I don't know. I mean, it's very clear that it's an American flag and an eagle in between, for sure. But then again, we don't know. How do you justify debating him? Justify? I don't need to justify debating anybody. The fuck do you mean? Charlie Kirk is an incredibly powerful individual in the Trump administration. Okay? Charlie Kirk was an incredibly powerful figure in the Trump administration. Okay? I don't believe that debates are the end-all be-all, and it's mostly pseudo-intellectual sparring for entertainment with quippy one-liners to ritualistically humiliate your interlocutors in the quote-unquote marketplace of ideas. Having said that, there is some utility to it, especially when the person that you are engaging with is also a very influential figure. My metric on who deserves debate and who doesn't has always been clear, okay? There are certain people who I do not entertain debating because I feel like it's I weigh out the negative consequences, right? Someone who is an otherwise irrelevant white supremacist, for example, who's trying to build a prominent platform for themselves, do not require someone like myself dealing with them. Because that would elevate their status. That would normalize their opinions to a certain degree. But if those opinions are coming from the likes of Charlie Kirk, those opinions are already normalized. Right? Charlie Kirk's positions are so normalized that he was seen as a massively consequential advisor to the Trump administration.
Why now they have taken that step. I suppose time is a factor. This is a killer on the loose, an assassin on the run. So there is danger inherent in that, clearly. Although they say, and said this morning, the community is not at risk. They reckon this was a targeted shooting. But clearly, this individual has to be brought to book very quickly. And that will be the pressure that is on the FBI. The pressure that's on them now, of course, is to find out where he went. We see him climbing stairs in those images, presumably before the assassination. We are told that
we don't even know if that's the actual shooter or not, but like he does look groiped up, I will say. Like, he does look incredibly groiped up. He looks this is a very groiper posture. I mean, one might say that he is simply wearing this to blend in or whatever, but like this looks like a groiper, if this is even the guy. At least on a first glance, right?
he was running afterwards. There's no indication that we're looking at the aftermath in those two still pictures. He doesn't look like a man in a hurry, but yeah, you know, he could be anywhere. If he got into a vehicle, then that widens the scope of the manhunt considerably, and they will be sifting through not just video evidence, but also, you know, number plate recognition, eyewitness evidence as well.
Well, speaking during the 9/11 commemorations in New York, Donald Trump paid tribute to Charlie Kirk and announced he would be awarding him the Medal of Freedom.
Let me express the horror and grief so many Americans at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk have felt. Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people.
What does groiper mean? For those of you who don't know, groiper is a term for like far-right neo-Nazis on the internet. It's a self-described. It's a term that they call themselves. You know, Nick Fuentes fans and people like that. You know, people who just believe like esoteric neo-Nazi shit. Oftentimes they have a proclivity towards lolicon, hentai, things of that nature. A lot of Gen Z fascists are groipers. And many of them also despise Charlie Kirk. I actually have a very interesting perspective on this. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it in a second. What's really interesting about the way that a lot of people, a lot of groipers themselves, including Nick Fuentes, like, is stating that they are so shocked and saddened, and that you know, maybe Charlie Kirk was assassinated by maybe Charlie Kirk was assassinated by Israel. Maybe somehow Jews had a part in this. Is, I think, coming less from a place of making every conspiracy about the Jews and more so from a place of probably recognizing the formative role that Charlie Kirk probably played in their political development, even though they became actively way more radicalized than Charlie Kirk and started despising Charlie Kirk in the process of said radicalization. Because Charlie Kirk, for all intents and purposes, was an extremist by every, by every metric, I would say, even though, Donald Trump is president. So what does that mean? I don't know. But he absolutely was pro-Israel, pro-administration above all else, right? And a lot of people within the far right actually despise Charlie Kirk for it. Nick Fuentes made a name for himself by, hitting Charlie from his right flank, right? Over and over and over again. Yeah, here it is.
Charlie Kirk will not debate me because I would fucking devour him. I would eat him alive. And at the end of the day, that's going to happen one way or the other.
Now, I'm not making any inferences, by the way. I'm not saying that it was one of his boys that did this, right? I don't know. I have no idea. But I think a lot of right-wingers right now, like that InfoWars guy and many others, are fantasizing about this somehow being an assassination conducted by the state of Israel because Charlie Kirk any moment now was going to turn on Israel, right? And that's the reason why they're basically fantasizing about for a bunch of different reasons. Like some of them are fantasizing about Charlie Kirk seemingly turning on Israel because they wish it to be the case. Some of them are claiming that this is happening because some of them are claiming that Charlie was at any moment now going to turn on Israel because they just want to shit on Israel and say that it's actually Israel's fault that he was assassinated. And others are doing that, I think, because they used to be fans of him, and now that he died, they feel bad about it. And they want to, in their own mind, make it seem as though he was actually on board with the cause.
Whether he chooses to confront me or not, whether he has dignity and honor or not, it's just a matter of time. My ideas are already there. I've already impregnated your organization. I took Turning Point USA and I fucked it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I fucked it.
I'm no Groiber, but this is a merit to the Israel narrative. I mean, there are a lot of suspicious elements involved in the Charlie Kirk assassination, okay? It does have, maybe it's just totally happenstance, totally random, but, the way that this guy was able to line up a shot and create a little sniper perch for himself, unbeknownst to everybody else, and then was able to jet away by taking advantage of another person that was in the crowd that redirected all of law enforcement attention towards himself. One shot, one kill, directly in the main vein on his neck. All of that stuff is strange, but I'm going to be 100% for real. No, there isn't a random hunter who could probably hit that shot, even if it's a crazy shot. No, I know a lot of people are saying a random hunter could hit that shot, but I've heard this a lot, okay? But I don't think a lot of people understand. It's not the shot in and of itself, even though it's a relatively competent shot would be able to do that. But I think shooting deer is a little bit different than shooting a human being, especially for the first time ever. Okay, that's number one. Number two, it's actually the stakes, it's the pressure, and the setup. The very fact that he was able to get away, because you see this in school shootings all the time. People people make this. People basically design how they're going to conduct a school shooting for a very long time, and then when the moment comes, obviously, like they. What? HasanAbi is proven wrong and clings to his incorrect beliefs. You've been told repeatedly you were wrong. On what? Can't wait to see how long it takes for HasanAbi to start screaming at his chat for no reason. Acts like a baby. Chat says take a break. HasanAbi yells at chat. Classic. Oh, brother. Here, take a day off, dude. You're obviously a little unstable. My point was that planning something like this and then being able to successfully implement it is two entirely different things. And in most circumstances, like, the shooter usually doesn't get away, he gets killed or kills themselves. So the fact that this guy was able to get away is unique, I think. The fact that they still haven't been able to find the shooter is unique. Now, it could be a matter of incompetence in law enforcement, okay? For sure. It could be a matter of incompetence in law enforcement, but there are some interesting aspects of this assassination, of this hit, that I think that make me feel like it smells weird. I don't think Charlie Kirk was not assassinated by Israel or Trump or likely any organization. This happens with every assassination. Is it really that hard to believe an unhinged weirdo with likely incoherent politics shot someone famous? This happened for like a century. No, I agree. I don't disagree with you. I agree. I think that is like in order of priority, or in order of the hierarchy of like likelihood, I would say that it's most likely what it always is, which is like a fucking dude, oftentimes right wing, who just has like indecipherable, incoherent politics and has took it upon himself to take matters into his own hands because like of a serious disagreement that they had. That's usually how these things go. But oftentimes these guys don't get away with it. You know?
Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. Fantastic people they are. We miss him greatly, yet I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd.
The news is coming in very fast now. Breaking news in the hunt for the assassin in Utah. Brand new evidence now. Bill Malutian. Bill, tell us.
Yeah, Harris, good morning to you. We heard earlier today that the FBI said they recovered that high-powered bolt-action rifle in a wooded area. Well, now several federal sources confirmed to Fox News that messages were found written on both the gun and the ammunition here, and those messages are currently being reviewed by investigators. We can't confirm what were in those messages, only that messages were found scrawled on both the gun and the ammunition that investigators have found, and that is under review right now. That gun will be having what's known as an urgent trace by the ATF. That is when they're going to try to find out where the gun was purchased, when it was purchased, what the possible chain of custody was. Keep in mind, the FBI also announcing earlier this morning they found a partial palm print. They also found some footprints, and they do have good surveillance video of the suspect. They just say they're not going to be releasing that video right now. They say those images show that person, whoever it is, jumping off a building and running off into a neighborhood, and that person appears to be college-aged. But again, Harris, multiple federal sources telling Fox News that messages of some kind were found written on both the gun and the ammo, and investigators right now looking at those messages, as here we are about 20 hours after this assassination and still no suspect in custody.
Make no mistake, this could very well be true. It's just that releasing this information without proper confirmation is incredibly irresponsible. The New York Times has reported on this. The original source comes from Steven Crowder. He was the one who fucking leaked this. Okay. And he was the one who leaked this. And the New York Times said, but a senior law enforcement official with direct knowledge of the investigation cautioned that report had not been verified by the ATF. Analysts and did not match other summaries of evidence and might turn out to have been misread or misinterpreted. The reason why I'm saying that is because the Wall Street Journal reported on it, CNN reported on it, and the reason why it's dangerous and irresponsible is because, like, you don't fucking know. You don't know if this corresponds to the shooter's actual ideology or if they're like an opportunist that wanted to foment like race war or something, you know, because like Reuters do stuff like that all the time. You don't know if it's actually a left-wing ideological perspective that was true and real and genuine. And you have to analyze all of the evidence that's readily available before you make a release like this, before you make a statement like this known, because that kind of dangerous misinformation just goes crazy. And then a lot of people, by the time new information comes out, you know, people have already made up their minds, right? So that in and of itself is like very dangerous. I'm asking rhetorically, but why is no one bringing up that Fuentes has been going hard against Kirk? And in the last few weeks, calling him a traitor, Judas, goat, and shit. Look at the Groyper reply guys under his post. If the cops and media were serious, this is who they would give attention to. I mean, you can say that about me too, man. You can say that about like a person who is like overwhelmingly antagonistic to Charlie Kirk, and his audience is antagonistic to Charlie Kirk. Like that. The right wingers are never going to blame the right anyway. But the reason why I showed you this stuff is because, yeah, Nick Fuentes, here is Zay Squirrel saying, Nick Fuentes, a Nazi Frankenstein monster created by conservative alt-right, is now turning on his masters and vowing to destroy the GOP while harassing Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro. As Malcolm X would say, the chickens are coming home to roost. So,
Ben, it's great to see you. Why did you give a 45-minute speech about me at Stanford? And you won't even look at my
Hey, he's with his kids.
Come on, I'm right here. Hey, let him cross, man. Let him cross. I know you're with your family, but I can't.
Yeah, I mean, this is what he was doing. He's done this for quite a while, as a matter of fact. He made a big name for himself by, like, doing this at Turning Point USA events. So there is a lot of animosity from the far right as well. I think claims of the shooter being related to a pro-trans message should be held extra scrutiny given the recent attempts to ban trans people from owning guns. Yeah, I mean, it's just... Here's another problem with having charlatans in charge, biased charlatans in charge that are willing to drop all notion of conducting a serious investigation, right? Zay called you out. What else is new, man? It's like saying you're getting death threats on Twitter. Okay, that's every day. Who gives a shit? Keep pushing. So, Anyway, where was I? There are a lot of people, I think, that are saying that he was going to turn on Israel any moment now, and I don't think that's there's evidence for that at all. And I think there are different reasons as to why some people are saying it. Some people are saying it because they just want to like shit on Israel and they think everything is Israel. He already did turn on Israel. You're wrong. No, he didn't, man. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. Every now and then, these guys speak out of both sides of their mouth all the time. You guys are so fucking stupid. You don't know these people as well as I do, okay? You haven't tracked their behavior as well as I have, I guess. Please stop. The notion that this guy was actually anti-Israel is so fucking weird. He has said in a couple different instances, like marginally correct statements. That's it. That's it. I think a lot of you want to. He called him out multiple times. Oh my God, it's like Trump. It's Trump. Is Trump anti-Israel too? Any day now, he's going to turn on Israel. Are you guys that fucking stupid? He has literally consistently said it's not a genocide. It's not a genocide. It's not a genocide. Palestine isn't real. Palestinians are not real. Famine is fake. He's just trying to manage the overall anti-Israel sentiment in his base, okay? That's why he's on a delicate tightrope. It's the same with the Epstein stuff, okay? It's the same shit with the Epstein stuff. He on the one hand, literally got the boss call from Trump, and he turned around and said, I'm done with the Epstein shit. I'm never going to talk about it, okay? But also simultaneously, he kept repeating, we should release all the Epstein files. Nah, dude, you're wrong. Just send me the fucking links, and I will send you 1 million extra links of Charlie Kirk dick riding Israel into oblivion. There's no evidence that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. What we do know is a hyper-violent transfer. Okay. Like, I understand why people want to believe that this was Israel, and that Charlie Kirk was like seemingly turning on Israel, and that's the meta right now. That's the narrative right now.
Of course.
Fox News just aired a segment. Charlie Kirk's legacy of supporting Israel with special guest Benjamin Netanyahu, who calls Charlie an extraordinary friend. He says Charlie wrote him a letter in May declaring, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is coming from the original like InfoWars guy. The original InfoWars guy a couple months ago saying like, I've heard that Charlie Kirk is afraid of his life if he were to turn on Israel. Okay, that's where this started. That's where these suspicions started. There was another Groyper guy who went viral as well, also a couple months ago, where he said like, Charlie Kirk is going to turn on Israel, and then Israel is going to kill him. Okay, but
team civilization here.
If you look at his interview with Ben Shapiro from 2 fucking days ago, so 1 day prior to him getting shot and killed, you will probably develop a better assessment on his opinion on Israel than whatever random clips that were put together in an effort for these guys, to at least like make themselves appear more palatable to the populist right who fucking hate Israel. Okay? Charlie Kirk quite literally was in favor of mass deportations for people who were critical of Israel. He said, I think you might be botted. You have 75K viewers, lol. Or maybe my fucking debate opponent got assassinated yesterday. And this is a nationally important news story. Yeah, Israel's not starving Gazans.
Being lied to, and I hate being propagandized. And this weekend, there was an all-out propaganda campaign trying to make it seem as if Israel is intentionally starving the people of Gaza. I hate being lied to, especially by the media networks. They lied to us about COVID. They lied to us about the vaccines. They lied to us about open borders. They lied to us Hunter Biden laptop. Joining us now is Rabbi Wilicki, a great friend.
Really pure propaganda, as you said. Approximately $500 million just from selling aid to the people of the Gaza Strip since the war has began. So Israel has realized for a long time that this is a problem, because while the aid has to...
Anyway. I posted a link to watch all the videos and tell me he wasn't calling him out. You're wrong or too afraid to admit it, in which in the later case, I don't blame you. You said post the links. Now watch all the videos and tell me you disagree. We both know I'm right, and I don't blame you for also not wanting to be hit by Israel. Are you fucking stupid? You think Charlie Kirk is anti-Israel, and you think me, this guy, is actually afraid of calling out Israel? Are you lobotomized? Are you a victim of a lobotomy that you were unaware of? What the fuck are you saying? Then watch the videos. What do you mean? The video is him literally saying that Israel's not starving people. This was at the peak of Israel starving people. What the fuck are you talking about? I guess I'm getting rage baited or something. That's not the video I sent you. What is the video you sent me? Charlie Kirk talking to Ben Shapiro? Is this the one? Watch all 3 videos and tell me he wasn't turning on them. Oh, okay. Okay, 1 minute and 49 seconds. Let's take a look at some of the... And I already explained this to you. Tim Pool does this all the time. Ben Shapiro doesn't do this because obviously he's like even more pro-Israel than these guys. But independent media is much more aware of the audience's attitude, okay? And therefore, they have to manage a situation that is an 80-20 issue for their base, okay? Charlie Kirk knows that a lot of his fans fucking hate Israel. At the Turning Point USA conference, he literally saw it. He saw it in real time, okay? Let's take a look at these clips, but not the one where he conducts an interview with Ben Shapiro.
Epstein with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. The sweatpants and the Harvard jacket, the kind of disheveled hair, looking as if he was so smart and above the clouds that he was doing advanced mathematic equations on the back of napkins. But if you actually go into some of the videos of people that met with Epstein at the time, they said he was awfully unimpressive when it came to finance and markets and economics. And it's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible. Easy, not hard. And this is no longer just speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, Saudi intelligence, or maybe he was just a hired gun.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about this is a correct assessment that Charlie Kirk is engaging in. What's even more interesting about it is that after Donald Trump told him to shut the fuck up about Jeffrey Epstein, he literally relayed that information to his own audience and said, I'm done talking about Epstein. The Patriots are in charge. Wait, the chatter is right. What are you talking about? Of course, there were moments in a sea of pro-Israel propaganda where a guy who has to fucking address real live crowds who are incredibly anti-Israel, especially because they're Gen Z, okay, is going to every now and then try to manage the situation. That's it.
He was just the guy that countries would go to and park a couple $100 million and say, hey, can you get one of the members of the royal family with a 13-year-old so we can get them to do what we want to do? Members of Congress are active.
Take the Ella song, Why Are You Dying on This Hill? Oh my God. This is not a hill. You think this is a hill. It's my least favorite type of fucking argument, okay? You didn't present a position. You didn't present a serious position. This is your point that you are presenting, okay, in your argument. And there are a million other points of evidence that I can present back to you, okay, offering minor criticism to Israel when you are unimaginably pro-Israel at every other moment is only done so you maintain some semblance of legitimacy in the eyes of your audience, okay? That's it. That's one clip. I'm sure there's others where he's like said something as well. Literally 48 hours before he was assassinated, Charlie Kirk asked some critical questions.
Interestingly, which is, okay, Charlie, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, on, so like, maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, you know, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse.
Oh, that's it? That's the clip? That's the clip? The Nelk boy said the same thing to Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, some people have criticized Israel for doing ethnic cleansing. What do you think? Let's watch the full one now.
We want to see the maniacs of Hamas be defeated. So we've seen news this.
Wait, hold on.
Open an account. We want to see the maniacs. So we're on Team Civilization here. We want to see the maniacs of Hamas be defeated. So we've seen news this morning that, quite honestly, I'm a little confused by, and I was hoping you could navigate it and help us understand, which is that Israel bombed Qatar, which houses a lot of Hamas officials. What happened here? And if I were to introduce just the skeptical question, will this potentially endanger America's own interests in the Middle East? So please, Ben, help me better understand the situation.
By the way, one thing that I do take issue with here is that even if I'm open to Israel assassinating Charlie Kirk, I do not, and I will not stand for this fucking idiotic notion that it was because he was actually turning on Israel any day now. Okay? You are a fucking moron if you think this. Okay? And there are a lot of people who do feel this way, but like this stop being smug and learn analysis, man, is just like, even if it was Israel that did this, the notion that he actually fucking is critical of Israel is so wrong.
Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one?
This is the point where the video cut off. By the way, here.
In your opinion, what would a conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years? So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
So ethnic cleansing, the idea, presumably, that population movement is equivalent to ethnic cleansing. I think ethnic cleansing is a term that's been fairly recently coined to describe population movement during war. And the reality is that's been ongoing for literally all of human history. The idea that Israel is, quote unquote, forcing people out of the Gaza Strip, that is not the stated policy of the Israeli government. The idea is if people want to leave, they can, but they're not being forced to leave. Again, moving people out of heavily urbanized areas that are honeycombed with terrorist booby traps pretty much everywhere is not the same thing as, quote unquote, ethnic cleansing. And I think that ethnic cleansing is very often used as sort of a softer form of the genocide attack, the idea being that Israel is trying to kill everyone, which of course is not true. As far as your earlier question about what we believe from the media, one of the things that I find kind of astonishing in some of the folks on the right who are highly critical of Israel is actually the lack of the lack of skepticism when it comes to legacy media. Legacy media are radically anti-Israel overall. The New York Times can certainly not be accused of being a pro-Israel outlet. It'd be very difficult to make the accusation that the Associated Press, which has worked hand in glove with Hamas for years, or Reuters, that these are wildly pro-Israel outlets. And yet, when it comes to the reporting, it seems to be sort of the opposite.
Ben,
so the
Ben,
perception the legacy media is like owned by the Jews. And
I was going to say, Ben, come
pro-Israel.
on. You Jews own the media, Ben. So, I mean, come on. As you could tell by all the wonderful headlines you guys get.
Well, I mean, dude, the accusation.
Wow. A sarcastic quip talking to Ben Shapiro about how negative the media is towards Israel. Does that strike you as a person who's anti-Israel, Chatters? Or are you oblivious to how sarcasm works?
That we own the media has not prevented, the Daily Wire from employing people who radically disagree with me on all of these matters. I mean, I don't agree with Matt Walsh on foreign policy. Matt obviously is a major host over at Daily Wire, and that's just my shop. And I'm overtly pro-Israel. Right? I mean, I'm not making any bones about this. I'm a Jew and I'm a Zionist. I'm not going to pretend that to say otherwise would be absolutely silly. To suggest that some sort of atheistic Jewish person by birth who does not care about Judaism or Israel owning the New York Times means the New York Times is pro-Israel is to ignore literally every bit of coverage they have ever.
Yeah, they agree that the New York Times is not pro-Israel, okay? Here they are saying that the most pro-Israel legacy publisher in the nation is actually not pro-Israel at all, because they every now and then accurately reflect on the events in an effort to maintain their credibility. I'm just saying, do you guys think that he's turning on Israel? Be honest.
Last question on this.
To ignore literal.
We're running out of time here, but just last question on this, Ben. I know this might be a tougher question, but BB.
Bro, that chatter is still saying watch the video. I am. I'm watching the video.
He said, quote, I didn't like he said this. I'll be honest. You can't be MAGA if you're anti-Israel. I don't like it for a couple reasons. How did you analyze that statement from BB?
I mean, and I think that there is the ungenerous way of interpreting that and then the generous way of interpreting that. So the ungenerous way is to suggest that you have to hold a particular position on every Israeli governmental activity in order to be MAGA, which of course is not true. I mean, you can disagree from the right or from the left with Bibi's policies, and you can still be plenty MAGA. I think the idea that Bibi is putting out there is that if you are taking Hamas's side against Israel in a conflict, it is very difficult to align that with the stated positions of the Trump administration or what President Trump himself is doing right now. I certainly is true.
You cannot look. I think you can have disagreements on Israel and still be MAGA. Obviously, you should be America first. But if you're pro Hamas, you're something darker, and we shouldn't put up with that. Ben, tell us about your important new book.
Chatter's talking to an imaginary HasanAbi that isn't actually watching the video. It's so crazy that like motherfuckers can literally do unlimited pro-genocide propaganda for 2 years and people still will turn around and act as though, yeah, propaganda says Charlie Kirk was not a critic of Israel. What kind of revisionism is this? Mohammed Hasan says, Charlie Kirk's question of Israel was because we've crossed the Rubicon where to not question Israel clearly reveals someone to be a propagandist. Because Nick Fuentes Tucker Carlson's critique of Israel, he had to adopt some of their talking points, the most mild ones, to avoid hemorrhaging his audience who have turned on Israel. He was a Ted Cruz, we must bless Israel Christian who championed the slaughter of Palestinians while repeating the most lazy hosbra about Qatar Islam the Muslim Brotherhood, etc. He was not a critic of Israel. But it's like, it's crazy that just people would rather believe this notion. Like, even if you think this was like a professional hit, maybe it was Mossad, the notion that it was because he was going to turn on Israel any moment now is so insane to me. Okay? That's it. Look at it from Israel's POV. Even this clip doesn't sell me on him being anti-Israel.
Stuff. They were hundreds.
No one. I saw the full one, by the way. I saw the full clip. No one is saying Charlie Kirk became anti-Israel, but when the head of the largest conservative youth organization in America with chapters on over, and I like Jeremy Lafredo. I mean, he's literally been arrested in Israel for his reporting and was held hostage for an extended period of time. Over 3,500 high schools and college campuses starts openly questioning whether the Israeli government and the military are lying about their war and regional ambitions. It poses a serious challenge. If that conversation were allowed to continue, it could shift the next generation of conservatives away from automatic support of Israel. The reality of the matter is the only reason why Charlie Kirk is saying this is because he doesn't want to hemorrhage the rest of his base of support to the Nick Fuentes of the world or the Tucker Carlsons of the world, because those guys are openly anti-Israel. And that position is infinitely more popular now, especially amongst the youth. That's it.
Hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu is basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate non-conspiracy question.
That's it, right? If you watch the entire conversation with Patrick Bet-David, you would actually arrive at a very different conclusion, okay? This kind of conspiratorial question, or not even a conspiratorial question, unironically, this is a very valid question, as a matter of fact, does not imply that someone is anti-Israel. You have to look at the totality of their commentary to recognize whether someone is pro-Israel or anti-Israel at all. And if you look at the rest of the conversation, because I saw this clip also circulating around. This is a much older clip, as a matter of fact. And then the rest of the subsequent things that he has said, you will recognize that Charlie Kirk is whatever Donald Trump is, okay? He was whatever Donald Trump was or is. That's all it is. And Donald Trump is pro-Israel. Every now and then, he might sidestep because he has to maintain a grip of control over his base of support. There's a shooting at UMass Boston now. Okay, guys, I'm not going to immediately fucking jump to the active shooting incidents that may or may not be taking place. You know, we don't normally do that, okay? Please stop. It's real, though. I know, even if it is real, again, I'm not going to Hasan hates Israel so much. Of course I do. What do you mean? What kind of question is this? Of course. Because I have a conscience. I have a heart. I have eyes to see and a brain to think. What the fuck do you mean? Of course I hate Israel. It is an apartheid state built around a ethnic religious supremacist ideology that is exterminationist at its heart, at its root. It is currently doing a genocide. Of course I'm fucking anti all of those things. Yes, I'm anti-Nazi as well. Is this a new stance, do you think? It's like saying, Hasan, why do you hate Nazi Germany so much? Why do you hate apartheid South Africa so much? What the fuck? Anyway.
Jewish.
And then the rest of it is him talking about secular Jews being responsible for. Yeah, I did. I wanted to debate Charlie Kirk on Israel. That was going to be the fucking debate. That's why it's so fucking insane to me that everyone is now running around and like that was what we were going to debate on. You understand that, right? In 2 weeks at Dartmouth University, I was supposed to debate Charlie Kirk on the issue of Israel and his unlimited support for Israel and the Trump administration's support for Israel and how much that actually is directly at odds with a lot of the foundational principles, quote unquote, of conservatism, whether it be free speech, cancel culture, whether it be isolationism, whether it be being pro-peace and not pro-war in the way that Donald Trump actually presented himself. That's why it's making me go crazy because, like, I did look at his fucking assessment. I did look at his perspective on Israel for that reason. That's what the debate was going to be about.
Have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using.
Yeah, Elon Musk said the same shit too. Do you think Elon Musk is anti-Israel? Any moment now, the Mossad is going to assassinate him because he's also said the same shit. Secular Jews have done unlimited open borders propaganda and anti-white hatred. That's exactly what Elon Musk said.
Against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that. In fact, we have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Kopperman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. The part of the, so that's totally true. And by the way, Tucker Carlson reinforced.
Wait, you're going to take the pro-Israel side and debate against Charlie Kirk? Take a week off.
Versus this. So I'm going to kind of, it was quite a day on the internet. Tucker Carlson was interviewing Candace Owens. We have Candace Owens coming up next hour. And Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us. We were on top of it. We actually said it in a different way. We said, I'm glad that Jewish Americans are reconsidering their financing of cultural Marxism. And people misunderstood it intentionally and slandered us as being anti-Semites. But listen.
You don't actually think Elon Musk would be forced to switch his views based on public pressure in the same way Charlie Kirk would be going in front of a young conservative all around the country law? That's a reach, though, law? No, man. These guys are anti-Semitic and pro-Israel. That's my point, okay? What the fuck? Is this new to you? He's an evangelical Zionist. That's it. On the one hand, they believe that, like, a lot of these secular Jews, these rootless cosmopolitans, are responsible for the death and destruction of Western civilization, okay? They are the ones who are responsible for the Great Replacement. That's how they think. That's how they feel. But also, simultaneously, they have a theological justification to offer unlimited support to Israel. If you do not understand the complexity of I guess, evangelical Zionism and its unlimited support for the nation state of Israel as an apartheid state conducting a genocide, you will find yourself duped by clips such as this one. Because for many people, they go, oh, well, he's saying something that comes across as anti-Semitic here, so he must be anti-Israel. That's not. It's not. He is a fucking, he can be both of those things at the same time. That's what's so funny. Like, you saw 3 clips, and that was enough. He literally said Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them, and said that the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has largely been financed by Jewish donors. Yeah, he's a fascist, dude. Yes. Is this new? It's not, you know? Anyway, this guy literally, like I said, stated over and over again, Palestine's not real. It's not real. It's not real. You know, that attitude shift is not reflective of like any sort of broader trend or anything. Okay. This guy is still tweeting at me. Under the gun 1776. Oh, it's because he's a fucking right winger. That was the guy who I was cooking in the chat. It's because he's an anti-Israel right-winger who was desperately coping with the notion that one of his favorite political content creators was just like an ultra-Zionist. And in his moment of passing, he had to turn around and be like, nah, you don't understand. He's afraid of Israel. Bitch, if I was afraid of Israel, I wouldn't be saying fuck Israel every goddamn day. Far before October 7 and every day since. Suck my fucking dick, dumbass. You don't even know. I was about to fucking debate him. I was about to debate him on his Israel support. God damn, these people are so fucking stupid. Yeah, you actually think he was a critic of Israel or Zionism? Seriously, get it together. Palestine doesn't exist. Islam is a sword of the left is using to slit the throat of America. 0 people from Gaza should be allowed to come to America, period. No, Israel is not starving Gazans. Kirk did not platform Tucker or Dave Smith because he had a change of heart. It was because he saw the tide turning amongst the Republican youth and had no choice but to try and co-opt the new anti-Israel movement on the right. If he didn't platform them, he would lose relevance. His job is to remain relevant and manipulate the conversation in the direction of Zionist and right-wing power players. That's his bread and butter. That's why he gains access to the White House. During his conference, he held a sit-down with conservative youth and used that dialogue to raise concerns over anti-Semitism in an effort to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Any criticisms he's made of Israel is simply so he can run cover for them. Kirk was a political performer, a grifter, a propagandist serving the most powerful people in this country. He should not have been shot in the neck in front of his wife and child. But let's be real here. He was a Zionist until his last breath. Yes. I do understand why it comes across as strange and a little bit heavy-handed that Benjamin Netanyahu and every fucking Israeli politician in unison started tweeting thoughts and prayers for Charlie Kirk literally seemingly the very moment that the first shot was fired. Okay? Benjamin Netanyahu was one of the first people around the planet that said, pray for Charlie Kirk. I was there. I saw it. We were all there. We watched it happen in real time. Okay? Is that strange? Yes. That's strange as fuck. It was, I think, and we can watch it. We can go back to the tape and review it if you want. It was fucking insane. He was one of the first people that issued, yeah, we must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot, a great guy from top to bottom. God bless him. Okay? That was at 3:02 p.m. Praying for Charlie Kirk. It was before. Benjamin Netanyahu posted that before Donald Trump even posted it. I'm pretty sure. I would be more inclined to believe that this was a Mossad hit if it suspiciously turned out that the guy who shot Charlie Kirk was actually a super free Palestine guy. Okay? That is an infinitely, that is a narrative that I think would make more sense than what these fucking guys are saying right now. Okay? Do you understand? You saying BB woke up from his good night's sleep just to type praying for XYZ right after the guy got shot? Yes. I'm confused. How is this not even more proof that they took him out before he switched his public opinion? They were able to martyr him and keep him as a pro-Israel voice. Why would BB even know about this and tweet about it faster than Trump? There is no indication that Charlie Kirk was actually going to, any moment now, become an anti-Zionist. There's a literal fucking conversation that he had with Ben Shapiro one day before he got shot and killed, where he is very clearly still running the pro-Israel narratives. What the fuck is wrong with you guys, man? Please take some medication or something. Holy fuck. Oh my God. I know people get really mad at me when I'm so short with people on this issue. Why are you avoiding the real positions that he has presented as opposed to the positions that you ascribe to him? Is it true they found the shooter? No. Anyway, let's move on. There are even people who I respect who have fallen mercy to this kind of thinking. People do love conspiracy theories, though. You are 100% being brigaded to make you talk about this, and probably. Anyway, let's get back to the news that we do know.
Investigators are hot on this person's trail. That's all we got right now. Harris will update as soon as we have more. We'll send it back to you.
Bill, thank you so very much. We are at a clip now about every 30 minutes. We're getting something brand new. So we will come back to you as the news warrants right here on Focus. Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here.
What happened to this video? Damn.
The news is coming in.
Shit. Breaking messages found on Charlie Kirk's assassin's gun. Fox is running with that too.
Very fast now. Breaking news in the hunt for the assassin in Utah. Brand new evidence now. Bill Malushin. Bill, tell us.
Yeah, Harris, good morning to you. We heard earlier today that the FBI said they recovered that high-powered bolt-action rifle in a wooded area. Well, now several federal sources confirmed to Fox News that messages were found written on both.
Okay, why are you entertaining this conspiracy so seriously? There is not nearly enough information to be making all these inferences and even less motive. All it's doing is giving the shitlibs and conservatives more ammo. Because when there's an environment of uncertainty, there are a lot of narratives that take root. And my primary purpose in moments like this is to try to enforce critical thinking skills upon the audience, okay? That's my job. That's what I do. This is what I have done every single time there is an environment of uncertainty. Okay?
Both the gun and the ammunition here, and those messages are currently being reviewed by investigators. We can't confirm what were in those messages, only that messages were found scrawled on.
107, please.
The European Parliament rejects request for a minute of silence for Charlie Kirk. Jesus Christ.
You need to press.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Madam President, dear colleagues, the murder of political activist Charlie Kirk, a husband, loving father, and patriot, has shocked the world. We must strongly condemn political violence and rhetoric that incites violence. Please stand with me in reflection and prayer in his honor, and I yield the rest of my time for a moment of silence.
Herr Kollege Weimers, wir haben abgesprochen und Sie wissen, dass die Präsidentin hat eine Schweigeminute abgelehnt. Wir fahren daher fort. Wir kommen zum Bericht von Herrn Stefano Bonaccini. Die Präsidentin hat die Schweigeminute abgelehnt. Bericht von Herrn Stefano Bonaccini zur Zusammenarbeit zwischen Durchsetzungsbehörden im Hinblick auf unlautere Handelspraktiken in der Agrar- und Lebensmittelversorgungskette. Abstimmung, Eintritt in die Interinstitutional
He was never elected to office, but during his 31 years, Charlie Kirk was able to leave an indelible mark on American politics with his willingness to debate the other side.
Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loves.
Yeah, this is God. There is a neutrality applied to the assessments that people make here. People saying this is AI, by the way, I think there is listen, the reason why people immediately jumped to the AI thing was because there was a massive jump in between when he just like moves his hand in the first 18 seconds. And I think the answer and the explanation for this is clearer than this being like a complete AI video. But instead, it's just a hastily done Photoshop job that has AI upscaling in it. Yeah, his hand enlarged in the video. It's enhancement. It's a feature in DaVinci Resolve. It's AI-powered smooth cut. Yeah, I think that's the most likely scenario here, rather than the fact that it was AI or something. His face is drooping. I think he had a stroke. Okay, I don't think so. I'm telling you, I think like the AI that you're seeing on screen is coming from the AI boosting that takes place with like a lot of the editing software that is used nowadays. Okay? It's like a TikTok filter. When you put a TikTok filter on your videos and your face moves weirdly sometimes because the filter is not correctly applied, it's like that. I'll look at his face droop. Maybe they tried to artificially make his face not look droopy. I don't know. And I know the trees move weirdly in the background. I'm not saying that there isn't any sort of editing software utilized here. I'm pretty sure they used Morph Cut. It's a feature in Adobe Premiere Pro that morphs between two separate cuts. If you look under the hands, you see the tie reflection morphing weirdly on the table. I know. And you see the fucking hands, you see the hand size get smaller as well. This is another one of the the things that people are running with. One must ask the question, why? Like, what purpose does this serve if it's an AI generated video? I think what he is saying in this video is far more consequential than what he is saying in the video. I think is far more consequential than like this being an AI video or not. What is this? This is him today? What the fuck? What is this photo, man? Bro, it looks like shit, but he also looks like shit all the time. So who knows, you know? Is it just like old man shit, or does he got the stroke face? This looks like it's AI upscaled as well, for the record, which is funny that people are like, this is AI, but then they send me a photo and it's like, I think also bass boosted.
So much. Kirk took his message to TikTok last year with a series called You've Been Brainwashed, traveling to college campuses, squaring off against students on everything from immigration to abortion.
Like, it's not dependent on the mom, and it can be like its own thing.
If you have a pacemaker, you're dependent. If you have a ventilator, you're dependent. Babies are in NICU units, neonatal intensive care units, they're dependent. Dependency does not equal its degree of moral worth.
Amassing more followers than Fox News, Tucker Carlson, even the Kamala Harris campaign. Speaking here about gender.
You can't define what a man is?
It's a little opaque. Again, you're looking at a man.
But your video, the largest video on TikTok is, what is a woman, 20 million views, but you don't know what a man is in your own worldview?
I said you're looking at a man, right?
Kirk voiced opposition to gay rights, rejected the separation of church and state, and described COVID lockdowns as government tyranny. He said he was simply speaking truths that others were too afraid to say out loud, speaking here on guns.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
Kirk began his political journey young. In high school, he led a protest against the price of cookies in the cafeteria. When he was 17, he wrote an op-ed claiming his economics textbook was pushing liberal ideas. That led to his first appearance on national TV. A year later, he co-founded Turning Point USA to take on liberal groups on college campuses. It grew rapidly, with thousands of chapters. By 2016, Kirk was speaking at the Republican National Convention.
We work on college campuses across the country. The only way we're going to take back the youth of this country is to storm them, and that is how we're going to make America great again.
Initially skeptical of Donald Trump, he quickly embraced the campaign, and during Trump's first term, he claimed to have visited the White House about 100 times.
Oh, wow. They even mentioned that. That's crazy. So a lot of people don't know this, and they probably don't remember this, but Charlie Kirk was anti-Trump in 2015. And I think it's important to understand that because he was anti-Trump because he was he's an operator for the Republicans, right? But once Trump won, he was like, this is the new meta. Trump is going to be the leader of the party. And he just went along with it. And as a matter of fact, he continued to go along with it. And I think this was good instincts for his own careerist ambitions. Even when the Murdochs and the Koch brothers and all of the institutional donors of the Republican Party were actually anti-Trump because they were worried that Trump was going to change the trajectory of the Republican Party and was going to be too much of a poisonous force for institutional Republicans. This is why Mitch McConnell was anti-Trump in the second before his second term, right? And for me, I think that shows that he at least had good instinct to stay on the Trump train, right? For his own career ambitions, of course, but that also shows that he was mostly just a Republican operative in general. He made the right bet, but you are being dishonest. What does that even mean? Like, for what reason? 2016, most people were. What's wrong with that? What are you saying? Most of them still are anti-Trump. You're an idiot. I'm confused. I'm saying that he had the right instinct when a lot of the institutional donors were anti-Trump to stick with Donald Trump, despite being an opportunist. J.D. Vance is a similar figure. They understood that Donald Trump is the Republican Party. That's it. And they went along with it. And Charlie Kirk, actually, there's a little bit more drama in the background here because, like, now Fox News is offering a lot of praise to Charlie Kirk, but when the institutional donors of the Republican Party tried to desperately move away from Donald Trump and even present Ron DeSantis as an alternative, if you recall, because like CPAC actually had Ron DeSantis as the primary figure that was going to supposedly be the next iteration of the Republican Party. And it obviously was a spectacular failure, and we all know that now, so most people forgot about it. But Charlie Kirk stuck with Donald Trump through that process. Okay. And he won big for that reason. But in that time frame, Fox News actually stopped having Charlie Kirk on for a brief period of time before Donald Trump obviously became the leader of the party and everyone had to capitulate to his whims once again. So that's also something to consider here.
Trumps. Insiders calling him the Trump whisperer.
He's done something that is just incredible for somebody really of his age.